I think it's also relevant that it's great to have your package ready, your video and topics, and be an expert and be a credible speaker, but also continue to work on your expertise, right? Because you don't ever want to focus on just your materials and then slack on any other aspect of your growth as an expert, and make those connections network and make connections however you can.
Jeanette, credible storytelling and the impact of speakers, she just wanted to learn more. And fast forward, she finds herself on the speaking management side and even starts her own agency, helping really, really well-known speakers in the industry.
Whichever tips and tools and takeaways that you intend to share with an audience, depending on the audience, you would like to make it as broad and general and, in general terms, really making sure that what you're saying in your talk or what you're trying to deliver is not so much about you and your story, but more about what you can provide to help people in whatever objective that is trying to be achieved.
Welcome to Lori the podcast, and I'm your host, Lori, and I'm super excited you're here to join me on my public speaking journey, finding out what the most impactful way is to get your audience into action. Your message is worth sharing, and people need to hear it now from you. So, you ready? Let's go. Well, Jeanette, welcome on the show. Super awesome that you're going to share your knowledge and expertise of your experience working with really high-end speakers and booking them on stages as a speaker agent. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into this industry?
Yes, thank you for having me, Lori. So I pretty much started, it was pretty random. I did used to work for an independent music record label. And from there, I opened a restaurant in Chicago and then took a bit of a hiatus to reconfigure life and stumbled upon a speaking bureau, which if you're not familiar with bureaus, their end clients are primarily corporations, associations, universities, and they are tasked with pairing those clients with the perfect speaker for an event. So I worked there and I assisted in an agent. So I was the agent's assistant, and compiling proposals for clients. And I was really fascinated because obviously I'd never been exposed to this type of work, and to see the types of experts in various fields and with their incredible storytelling and their impact, I really wanted to learn more about it. And then I found myself on the speaker management side, but more so on like a financial business planning aspect of it. And in 2017, I found myself with an opportunity to start something with my co-founder and partner, Darren. So that is how it came to be. And we had our very first speaker, who is one of the most sought after female speakers in the world. And from there, we scoured the internet to find people that resonated with us and the mission of helping people make great leaps and bounds in transforming their lives.
Wow. And about that transforming their lives, that's very interesting that you say that, because you were a speaking agent, right? Can you elaborate a bit on what it actually is and what it is that you're doing?
Yes. So starting out, when we work with people, when we first started looking for talent, we needed to know whether or not the person had the materials, the resources, the presence, the platform presence, expertise. So it's really assessing whether or not a talent or an expert has the full package. And when I say full package, is whether or not they're marketable, whether their information is just, do you have to dig to know who they are, Or can you find out whether this person is an expert and you can find them online, you can find out exactly what their mission and expertise is? Do they have the tools needed to transform whatever topic is relevant to your audience? Um, and essentially making sure they're the full package before going into the marketing them to our bureau clients and our direct clients. So, in a nutshell, figuring out if they are suitable, they pretty much check the boxes of, do you have an outline of all of your topics, and are the topics relevant to what's happening today and in business and in wellness or beyond? Storytelling is also a big topic. And do you have that video that wows people, that really represents you very well? Um, so those are some of the tools that we really require. So really having that full package, and obviously making sure that what they stand for aligns with the things that we value. And yeah, that's in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's a proper nutshell, and it's something that, and I always like to think like, does this make sense, right? Like, if organizations want to book a speaker, it should be relevant for the timing. It should be trustworthy, that you can showcase something like, this is what I've done. Is this what fits your culture? And as a speaking agent, right? Like, you're basically the bridge between the speaker and the platforms. And if we talk about these platforms, like, what are most topics, for example, that you are asked for speakers?
So the most recent topic, and mainly because there's so much uncertainty and a lot of worrisome um, events in the world and a lot of burnout. So I would have to say the top topics that we've been asked most recently are 100% burnouts, navigating through uncertainty, still leadership and innovation as well, storytelling from a business perspective, like brand building. And I would have to say wellness and mental health for certain.
Oh, and it's very intriguing, I find, because these are topics that are just very much out there in the world, right? So if we look through the lens of how do you get booked and how do you know what's happening inside of the world of events, of the event industry, of corporate organizations, it's maybe the same things that you talk about at home. I mean, burnout happens everywhere at the moment. Navigation through this time, it's what's happening. Like, everybody's like, how does this, but like, after COVID time looks like, and how do we cope with it? So interesting. And what I'm very curious about, because you know both sides, right? Like, you have contacts in the with speakers, and you have contacts with the organizations. What is the couple of things that you feel like you really, really, really need to have that as a speaker? You already listed some, right? Um, you need a video, you need the expertise. It needs to be marketable. What does that mean? What is marketable?
Marketable in a way that, for example, let's say you're an expert on neuroscience or something like that. It has to be easily digestible so that whichever tips and tools and takeaways that you intend to share with an audience, depending on the audience, you would like to make it as broad and general. And maybe some audiences can't digest things if you're speaking too scientifically. So then making it in general terms, um, really making sure that what you're saying in your talks or what you're trying to deliver is not so much about you and your story, but more about what you can provide to help people in whatever objective that is trying to be achieved. Oftentimes, actually, in recent times, I've been in speaker showcases where a lot of speakers talk about themselves and their stories of resilience and how they started off in life, which is great. But to listen through a full speech about your life, unless you're, you've written a book that's a number one best-selling author or something like a major motion picture, maybe people wouldn't want to specifically talk about your hardships for an hour, especially because everyone else has similar, challenges in their own lives. So to hear it for an hour and how you've overcome it, it's great to have those tools. But I think there's only a certain window of time where you should be talking about yourself versus, all right, here's how to transform, here's the tools, takeaways, and, you know, just maybe backed by science and certain things like that. So, that is one of the recommendations that I would have for anyone wanting to really create something special and beyond just an incredible story of
Yeah,
personal.
that is very powerful because the worst thing that can happen after a keynote is like, good for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And one there was this other speaker and, I it takes so much courage to even get up there, and I love that people even try because that's all what we're trying to do in life is do the best that we can with what we have, right? Um, but I think for specifically from the things that I've seen in this industry that have succeeded or been people have been more receptive to are also probably stories less of people not only just telling their story, but then talking about other people in their story. So it's like, oh, and then there was this person that did this. And so there's just more stories of little stories. And I'm thinking, okay, now I feel like I'm scrolling through someone's Instagram where I'm just reading stories about other people, like show me the meat and potatoes and really give the tools and the takeaways. So the tools are huge, the takeaways, very digestible, very actionable, and very make it unique to you and possibly something that people haven't heard so many times over.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is very fascinating what you're saying because what I'm hearing is that as a speaker, you need to be very, very aware. It's not about you; it's about the audience, right? You want to, or it's about the audience, but also about the organizer. Like you're hired for a job, you want to do the job well, and when they do the job well, if you do what the audience needs, and if they actually can take something away that they can put into practice and not like put on their wall like interesting thing. Like it's about like transform some people. And just a quick thing about transformation as well. What about transforming your own speaking habits? With the 14-day speaking habit training that's completely for free, ready for you right now. Check the link in the description. And as a speaking agent, how much are you involved in the content creation of a speaker? And how do you pick the right speaker for the right event? Like, how does that process happen for you?
So the content creation, I feel like, is solely from the speaker. And sometimes, usually, we'll assess it and take a look at based on the trends or based on how much information they're giving us, whether they need to scale it down. Because if a speaker has 10 topics and then you're showing 10 topics to a client, it's just overwhelming, right? And so it's much better to be more specific and maybe have 2 or 3 topics max and maybe little maybe a short add-ons of other smaller topics that you could incorporate into those 2 or 3 speeches you know, if there are speakers who can speak to, uh, different areas of expertise. So you and you don't want to just limit it to the 3, but know that you don't want to overwhelm people with, 10 topic descriptions. And apologies. What was your second question?
So how do you get involved in the content creation, and how do you pick the speaker that is right for a specific event?
Yes. So a lot of times when clients approach us, whether it's a bureau or if it is a direct client, corporation, university association, they often say that we are looking for this. So they will tell us what we need. Or sometimes you say we're looking for a speaker, and then you have to just pull it out of them like, okay, well, you ask about the audience and all of those questions that will help you develop some options to create a short list. Ideally, as a speaking agent, I'd prefer with our own roster. We pitch our own roster, and beyond, we don't really. The goal is to keep our speakers busy and not act like a bureau and reach outside of our direct network and recommend other speakers that we don't represent.
I got you. So you have a specific amount of people that you collaborate with, and then when a client asks you, you look in your own network of speakers, like who from the speakers that we work with fit the best into the space.
Yes, correct.
Interesting. And what really intrigues me, and the reason why I'm asking this is I can imagine that watchers to this video are thinking, okay, I have to have not 10 topics, maybe start with 1, or if I think 2, I can do 2. Okay, so I have 1 or 2 topics. How can I be chosen over someone else that may also talk about these topics? So if we talk about innovation and leadership, I mean, everybody can somehow find a connection between leadership and innovation if you're a bit creative. So how do you choose specific people, and how people that are listening can learn a bit about, okay, how can I be chosen for a specific gig?
So I think first people look for relevant. And I'm saying that in a sense that, hey, if I Google you, or if I do a search on you, will I find you and your expertise? Are you known for this? And do you have the testimonials from from a lot of clients, or are you someone who's starting out? So you almost need to give the perception, even if you haven't spoken for big paid clients, maybe start out speaking for free to a lot of local clients, because you're speaking and you're creating value. And then you can use footage is everything, right? So use that footage to showcase the insights that you have to share with an audience. And it really does set you apart, and your delivery is everything. You can tell right away who's been on the stage for a while and who's just starting out. And that is something that everyone needs. It takes practice. You've been you're a speaker, when you watch a video who is a seasoned speaker. So look like a seasoned speaker, even if you're not. Practice in your room, practice in front of your family, practice in front of any audience who will be receptive to your messages.
Yeah, this is the core of everything. Like, how do you become better? By practicing more. How do you practice more, you become better. And it's just this love that just keeps circling. And the fun thing is, what you're saying is what everybody keeps saying. Footage matters. So even if you don't stand in front of large audiences yet, create a large audience. Ask your whole family, the friends of the family, record something, or record even online, but showcase how credible you are. And it's very fascinating that is, or it's also very logical that is so important of getting booked, is you can be so marketable, but if you cannot get your message across, I mean, it's cool that you're a New York Times bestseller, but if you cannot convey the message in spoken word, it's still not conveyed. So I like that a lot. And if we talk about the other side, like, um you're in this industry for a long, long time. What are some mistakes that you see happening too often that you think, oh, with this little shift, it could have been prevented?
You mean from the perspective of speaker mistakes?
Speaker mistakes, but also in relation with bookings. So, for example, if you're a speaker, um, you want to get on stage, and what is it besides like content only? What are some mistakes that you see happening in the industry or in the marketing? Well, people get not as many gigs as they might deserve.
I think for me, working on this side is giving people space. There are times where speakers, even if you pitch them or even if you learn about them, the follow-up could be so excessive where you're almost overwhelmed. And so let's say that I pitched a speaker, or I've seen speakers get pitched. Sometimes those speakers' office will constantly just reach out. Well, how did they pick me yet? Did they pick me? And maybe every week there's someone from that office reaching out, and it becomes a little bit of a frustration because as soon as we know if you've been selected, we'll let you know. But obviously, time is a precious commodity, and at times, and if you're stopping to respond to the same question over and over, that, hey, I'll get back to you, or nothing's solidified yet, then it's a little bit of a frustrating thing. I feel like the more helpful you can be in the selection process, perhaps offering to have a discovery call as to assist in figuring out whether you're a right fit for a client. I think that also helps put their minds at ease on whether or not you are the right choice, not only on paper, but they also see you on this discovery call and know for certain that you are the right fit.
Ah, that's an amazing tip. And what I also hear in that, and I think that is just a nice lesson in life, is that it's not about like you have something that is perfect and then you're putting it out there and you just wait until it comes to you, right? The same as building a business. Like you created your website, you created your online course, you're putting it out there and now the clients will come. No, that's not how it works. Like you have to put in the work, and you have to be a human, like a like an honest human being who honestly believes in the message and honestly is integer and does all these things. So the discovery call, to show your face, to talk to the client so they have a good feeling about you as a person off stage. So if you put them on stage, they trust you as well. I think that that is a very valuable tip that you just shared, and it's something that everybody can do.
Yes, definitely. And there is something else that I wanted to share that I thought of as you were speaking a moment ago. I think it's also relevant that people. It's great to have your package ready, your video and your topics, and be an expert in, be a credible speaker, but also continue to work on your expertise, right? Because you don't ever want to focus on just your materials and then slack on any other aspect of your growth as an expert, and make those connections with network and make connections however you can. I know a lot of people who are part of mastermind groups, or, building their networks through LinkedIn, or participating in speakers associations where they could be in front of more people, more prospective clients.
Yeah, I love that you share this. It's like you keep growing. It's not like you have a speaking agent book me. Now it's
Exactly.
like this road of growth where you on your way you have more experience in the speaking industry because you speak more, then you work on your credibility as the expert, so the worthiness of your talk also increases with the, and that's what you said before, how you said that, like navigating in uncertainty. Times change, so your talk changed. I love how you say that. And when you were talking, a question got in my mind. So we're really going to ping pong this. This is amazing. Um, because you said before you want to create some clarity to your client. Like you don't want to overwhelm them with too many topics. While most really enthusiastic experts, they love to talk about it all. So imagine if you have like 10 topics, how, like, through what lens can you look to filter those 10 topics into smaller buckets, basically?
I would say look at this what's going on in the world and which of those topics would be most relevant to what people are asking for. So you will, even through us or even through working directly with clients and bureaus, will know what topics people are asking for the most. And so we could narrow down those topics based on that. But then you could also put, you know, in your bio, list your areas of expertise so that when people read your bio, they know that you cover so much more insight than what you're offering. And that could be even an open invitation to ask about those things. Also, during a content planning call, let's say, during a discovery call, that can come up where a client could ask if you cover this certain area. And of course, the speakers feel is more than open to saying, sharing where they can take that specific topic.
This is actually really brilliant what you're saying. So what I'm hearing is out of the 10 topics, what one, two, or three main areas can you filter that really are relevant for the time that we're in right now? And how can you add those other seven, eight, nine topics under the buckets that you created, right? So how can you make, like you previously you called it add-ons. I think that's also a great way to frame it. Like you have small add-ons and stories, and basically you're still presenting 10 topics, but in a way
Yeah.
that's not overwhelming. And the client in the discovery call can still say, okay, I want this part and this part and this part. Can you do that? And of course, the answer is yes.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, amazing. Amazing. And since you are in this industry for a long, long time, and times are shifting, what is something that really surprised you, like this last year, that you did not expect, or a change that you're seeing happening that's happening right now and might also continue into the future? I'm throwing you under the bus here.
That is a good one. Well, it's interesting because with 2020 and the shift from in person to virtual, I feel like everybody was scrambling to really hone in on their virtual skills because sometimes people that are in person have a hard time transitioning, speaking to a little light in the middle of your laptop. So I thought that perhaps that the trend would be going back to in person, although there is slight talk of what the recession could bring for 2023 and whether budgets will be cut, where maybe, and I'm not saying this definitively will happen, but that maybe the budgets won't allow for these huge conferences, but more so possibly back to virtual. So I almost feel like it's great to know how to deliver both ways because that just keeps you ahead of the game and just sharp and no matter what format is being asked of you.
This is very interesting. Like, if we talk about the changing world outside of us, that you as a speaker are flexible to just cope with what is needed. That's, I think, the whole baseline of everything that you're saying. Like, if it's your topics, your the amount, the way you deliver, the expertise, you would just want to showcase that you're relevant in the moment for what they need, and that is exactly what you can deliver. Mm. Amazing. And did you see a shift, like besides um, delivering from on stage, like physically with each other, to virtual? Did you see other changes that it caused in the industry? Like besides like looking at that dot, did you see other things that needed to be shipped because we went virtually?
I Good question. Um, I think not not that I can think of at the top of my head at this moment. I'm certain that there are. It's just not really immediately coming to mind.
Ah, but that is interesting as well, right? Like, I find that so fascinating. Like, life around us is so changing all the time. But when we connect to our core reason, which for most speakers probably is to transform an audience into a state that they've been through and they want them to help them with as well, like the way of delivery might differ, but in a way it still stays the same. So it's therefore also quite intriguing to move with the changes and just, you know, be aware of what's going on, because what you're saying, like if it's not on the top of your mind, it might also not be that important. So if you can just make sure that as a speaker you're able to deliver virtually, you can go with the flow and still deliver that impact.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I think also with everything going virtual, with everything having gone virtual, sometimes going to another virtual meeting with a virtual speaker is like, oh my gosh, not another virtual meeting. So, I mean, that you brought up a good point. Now you have to be even more engaging as you would be on stage, as you are staring into light and making sure that you are just keeping everyone's attention because honestly, it's so easy to pick up your phone and start texting people or starting to write an email while there's a speech going on, right? So it's really almost more challenging, not even challenging. You have to find a different way to keep that level of engagement with people because it's virtual and they have the opportunity to do other multitasking types of things on the side without anyone noticing, right? So I think that has been also something that people have had to adapt to.
Yeah, I got you. Like that is a struggle that I think everybody went through. And in the speaking industry is even more important because it is about engagement. So I completely understand that. And just like as a last takeaway, I've asked you some questions, but I can also imagine that there's something in your mind that you might think, oh, maybe they should know this. Like if you are an impactful entrepreneur and you really, really have live events that are worth sharing with the intention to transform an audience, what is the biggest change that they can make right now to get one step closer to be booked consistently?
That is somewhat of a trick question. Honestly, and I will be truthful here that we might believe in people so much, but sometimes there are other speakers that our clients gravitate to more, right?
Mm,
So whether that is a hard call because someone could literally fit and check all of our boxes, but somehow are not being booked over some other speakers. Could be for a variety of reasons, and that could be the visibility factor, right? Have we heard about this person? Do they have these great testimonials? Do they, referrals are huge as well. And just being out there and present where you are known for an expert in something. So hone in on that craft and be the best in that area. Because there are some people that may know more and that people will gravitate towards. And so I feel like just be as educated in your area as you can, and don't lean so much onto the motivational aspect of it. Obviously, we all want to be inspired and uplifted, but but have something beyond that.
Wow. This is so powerful. This is so powerful. Some quote that I heard of before is like, um people don't book speakers, people book expert who can speak. So it's not so much about how much you can motivate people, because what is motivation really? What is inspiration really? Like, it's about transformative. It's about people taking action. And if you becoming an expert in your industry is going to help you get on stages, then make sure you get to that stage and work really hard to make sure you are that person who is so visible. Because that's what I like to believe, and I'm very curious if you agree with this, is, everybody is born on some moment, and there was not like a public speaker or motivational speaker on their forehead, like, there are people who are so worked so hard to become something, and can be a very successful entrepreneur or very successful athlete or whatever it might be. They're outstanding in their type of field, and if they sprinkle a bit of public speaking over that, what they're already having, they can become outstanding. And if you come from a place, I want to be a public speaker, what am I going to talk about? What is my personal story that everybody loves to hear, which is not true because it's about the takeaways. It's an interesting field to be in, and everybody can become that expert if you just work really hard.
Right. And also, I want to say that it's better to be an expert in what you're doing and have that consulting firm or whatever is your core business, be the core business, right? The speaking aspect is the icing on the cake. Sometimes people say, hey, I want to be a motivational speaker. I have an agent. I don't have any bookings, and I don't have income. Right. You don't ever want to be in that situation. Like, you don't want to drop everything to be a speaker. Hold on to the things that make you so great and relevant and make you an expert, and let those speaking engagements come when they come, but don't feel the pressure of making that your sole source. Because I've seen that happen quite a bit, and then I have seen speakers start to panic when they've quit their day jobs to become speakers, and I personally don't recommend it. Obviously, everyone has their own story. Everyone's story unfolds differently, and maybe it works for people where they have nothing and then they're just the most booked speaker in the world. But more often than not, I see people that give up a lot to be a speaker when maybe they should have held on and figured out a way to do both, and then possibly let go of one when you see the other one ready to take off.
And that's brilliant, because if you believe that experts speak, it makes so much sense that besides speaking, you are also the expert. So, yeah, brilliant.
Yeah. And honestly, I do see a lot of experts who could care less if they're speaking or not, because they're busy being experts at what they do. And when they have the time and for the right client, they will be speakers. And they're incredible speakers because, their expertise is in their consulting work. And so they know all the tools and value that people are looking for. So definitely, unless you have a very supportive, maybe partner that is like, go ahead and be a speaker, I'll support you or whatever. Or If you have a lot of money you're sitting on.
You can take the risk.
Exactly. Then there's no, but if you rely on it on solely and you've left everything behind, that's not my first recommendation.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just a little bit of my 2 cents in that.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing this knowledge. Wow, we're at the end of this episode already. But it's not the end. Because the goal of this episode is to get you impact, to grow your business, increase your influence, and to land you stages, maybe even a TEDx. So let's implement. In the description, you will find a link to my free 14-day speaking habit training where you train your public speaking muscle for 2 weeks straight. So go there right now and sign up and hit that subscribe button too. Why not? You never ever have to miss a single episode. And that's why I can say now, see you in the next one. Ciao, ciao.